Hey friends, it's Nick. Today I wanted to talk about my stem cell transplant. For anyone who's new to this channel, hi, my name is Nick. I was diagnosed with stage 4 double-hit lymphoma back in 2016. I was prescribed 6 rounds of R-EPOCH chemotherapy, 10 rounds of radiation to the pelvis, and an autologous stem cell transplant. A few videos ago, I discussed my stem cell collection.
Oh yeah, faint memories. It's all coming back to me now.
I talked about the first part of this process being the collection of my stem cells. I also talked about the many mishaps of that day. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the chemotherapy I had gotten before the transplant, what happens, what to expect, my experience, and my thoughts on the whole process. So let's get right into it. For those who don't know what a stem cell transplant is, I'm going to give you a quick rundown. But please keep in mind, I am not a medical professional. I'm just a patient sharing my experience as a patient. A stem cell transplant is when they give you a very high dose of chemotherapy to replace your blood cells. They replace these blood cells with healthy stem cells. These stem cells could either come from a donor, and that is called an allogenic stem cell transplant, or in my case, they could come from your own body, which is called an autologous stem cell transplant. Now, a stem cell could turn into any cell that's in your blood. It could turn into a red cell or a white cell, and your body determines what it needs, so it automatically transforms that stem cell into another type of cell. Isn't that fascinating? It's like a restart for a person instead of a computer. The chemotherapy I was prescribed for this procedure is called BEAM, B-E-A-M, and that stands for carmustine, etoposide, cytarabine, and melphalan. This was probably the only time I saw the word etoposide and was like, yes! Something I'm familiar with, thank goodness, I know what to expect. My stem cell transplant was scheduled for the beginning of December, and for a lot of people, Christmas time is a very emotional time to be in the hospital. Even for me, someone who's not crazy about Christmas, I was just thinking, am I gonna have to spend Christmas Day here? The thing about stem cell transplants is the time you have to stay in the hospital is unknown. They can make predictions, but it depends on your body at the end of the day. I know people who have had outpatient transplants, and to be honest, I do not know how those work. And I also know someone who was in the hospital for 2 months after their stem cell transplant. Personally, I was discharged on day plus 18. Now, let me explain what that means. When I was admitted to the hospital, they gave me a calendar to predict my entire stay at the hospital. Negative numbers were the chemo days. Day 0 is when the actual transplant happens. And the plus days are counting up after your transplant, and the goal is to get up to day plus 100. The first 100 days after a stem cell transplant is crucial because that's when you're most at risk for serious infections and death. Dark, I know. But that's the significance of day plus 100. A lot of stem cell transplant survivors will celebrate their 100 days after their transplant to basically be like, I made it. I was admitted on day -6. The bone marrow transplant ward in my hospital was very small. It was a special hallway isolated in the back of the hospital that you needed special access to. Isolation is pretty important because people who are going through transplant have zero immune system. They gotta keep those germs out. My room itself was huge. I think I described it as a suite with filtered air. It was never quiet in there. It sounded like there were fans going. They want to keep the air flowing. I had a sink and I had a fridge and a huge TV. I'll read you a short paragraph from my first day at the hospital that I wrote on my blog. Patients with masks and their IV trees pass through the hallway as quick and as frequently as the trucks on the road in Pet Sematary. Bruh, I love Stephen King. It was B-Day. Don't ask me what that stands for, but I hope whatever's left of my lymphoma chokes on it. The shade. I'm gonna be honest, I was in a bad mood for the vast majority of my stay. Admittedly, if I stuck to my positive by choice attitude that I preach, it would have been a lot easier on me to go through. But alas, I am my own worst enemy since the very genesis of Rebels. The first chemo drug on day 1, carmustine, my nurse warned me would be the worst. In the past, I didn't feel the effects of the drugs right away, but right after this drug infused, I felt like I had 3 shots of vodka. I lost my taste right away, and my stomach and head hurt. To be fair, these drugs would infuse way faster than my drugs I got back at my other hospital, so there's that. The second day, I got 2 2-hour bags of cytarabine and 1 4-hour bag of etoposide, which was cake for me because I'm used to my 4 24-hour bags of EPOC. Come on, that's all you got? It was like working a mid-shift after working 6 doubles. It's like, all right, this is easy. I'll read you another quick diary entry from day -2. Boredom is something I rarely feel, so when I feel it, it hits me hard. I feel so bored and stuck. I feel fed up with this experience as a whole. Visitors make me cranky. It's irritating to talk. My patience has run out. I'm pissed off and done. I need to walk and get on with my life already. Chemo demons, aka prednisone. The following day was Melphalan Day. Now I had one goal, one mission for this stay at the hospital. Do not get mucositis. My doctors told me this was pretty much inevitable. Mucositis happens when chemotherapy causes inflammation and ulceration of the digestive tract. It's one of the lesser known side effects of chemotherapy, which is asinine in my opinion because that's way worse than losing your damn hair. Now, the digestive tract goes all the way down, but I was most interested in protecting my mouth because when you have mouth sores, you can't eat, you can't speak, you can't really do anything. Melphalan is the drug that causes this problem. The nurses told me to suck on ice a half an hour before the infusion and a half an hour after the infusion. I took this a step further and said, I'm just chewing and sucking on ice all day long. Popsicles are your best friend, and they'll bring you in ice buckets so you'll have access to ice. If you happen to be someone watching about to go through a stem cell transplant, that is. They also give you lozenges and mouth rinses a few times a day. And it's essential to do these things whenever they say because they know what it takes to avoid this very horrible side effect. I also wrote a diary entry about the lozenges and rinses. All the lozenges and rinses were pure torture as well. The taste of both of them that will never leave me. The rinses just tasted like salt water, but I had to keep them in my mouth for 3 minutes. The saliva built up and it became thick and disgusting as I counted to 60 3 times. I did this 4 to 5 times a day. The repetition of it alone was hell. The lozenges also tasted like dull Necco wafers covered in sandpaper. If you remember what Necco wafers are, my young friends. They made me want to puke, but they were my only relief from the thrush. There was good news and there was bad news. The good news is I successfully avoided mucositis. Another victory for this heavyweight. The bad news is I did get oral thrush. Basically, the bacteria in your mouth grows out of control because your immune system cannot fight it off. And it's not like you can brush your teeth 100 times to get rid of it either. Trust me, I tried. Ugh. But after Melphalan Day, that was the end of chemotherapy, and hopefully for life. The next day, I would get my stem cells back, and then it's just a waiting game for my body to rebuild its immune system. So I'm gonna leave it here and pick up next time to talk about the transplant itself, the side effects, and I'm also gonna make videos about packing for your stay at the hospital, all that good stuff. I'll end this video with another diary entry basically summarizing what I think it's like to go through a stem cell transplant. Going through an autologous stem cell transplant for me was like the idea of water torture. Only instead of water, it's chemo. And then it was my stem cells. And then it was the sweat from my own body. And the many blood transfusions. The true torture, however, the figurative drip, was being within the walls of the hospital where the seconds feel like hours. Nobody has a set date of release. We are all at the mercy of our bloodstreams, waiting for counts to rise. I'm 25 and this is deep. Na zdrowie! Thank you so much to anyone who is subscribed and anyone who watched my channel. It truly means a lot to me. Please like if this video was helpful to you or at least mildly entertaining. Subscribe for more lymphoma-related content from the eyes of a former patient and current survivor. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye!